Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Continue. Good. Here we
Thank
are.
you. So nice to meet you. To start off with, would you like to say your name and where you are?
Yes. Yaro Starak, currently living in Australia, Brisbane.
Okay. And the first question is, who are you as a person, as a human being? And that can be any aspects about yourself that you would like to share, qualities,
That's
passions, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, that just reminds me of an exercise in Gestalt training. We used to face one-to-one and sit on the floor and say, "Who are you?" And then you're supposed to answer. And then the person says, "Yeah, but who are you?" "Well, I'm so and so." "But yeah, but who are you?" "And who are you?" And that would take maybe 10 minutes. It would be so frustrating that you would get emotional. So yeah, I'm so I can say who.
I usually only ask it once, so.
But that was good exercise because it pressures you to really stop the role playing, the titles, the stuff you think about yourself. It stops you completely, but it comes to your what I call the soul part of you. And the soul part. So I'm very much body, mind, and soul integrated, dancing like the universe. So that would be my answer.
Okay, maybe I will ask again.
All right.
And who else are you?
Well, I'm a male. Again, I can have a role of a male, therapist, private practice, teacher, 30 years of teaching, traveler. My journeys went around the world. I had a very fortunate job here in University of Queensland, thank goodness, that every 3 years I had a paid 6 months educational leave, study leave, where I could go around the world. So I did. Since I had people in Mexico and Spain and Canada, United States, you name it. So I did go. So I'm a great traveler, and I enjoyed very much traveling around the world. So I'm also a learner. Curiosity is my basic interest, in being curious. Sometimes I'm curious to a point that I get in trouble. But one of the things in Gestalt, when you're in trouble, it means you're learning something that you've never learned before. So getting in trouble, it's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. So, what would you say are some of your values, some of the core values that you orient yourself around?
Well, yeah, I can think about core values I have learned from childhood. My father died in the Second World War. My mother was look after me for, immigrating from Ukraine, ending up in refugee camps, and then landing in Venezuela, where I went to school 8 or 9 years, back in Canada. So at each stage, the culture core values were different. So it's fascinating. So there are no, each culture, each place that you grow up in particularly has their own core values. But I would say, as a therapist, social worker, psychologist, core values is justice, social equality, belief in the possibility of every human being has answers to their difficulties, and therapists don't know everything or don't know at all. The therapist is there to enable that person to discover what they have already, the answers of their life and their growth. And they get stuck. So if they stuck, well, they go to a therapist or to help a friend, and hopefully they get unstuck to carry on living. And that, to me, the core value, how can I, as a human being, live those values and growth. If I'm not growing from some of the values, I don't bother with them, even though they're ideal, wonderful. I'm not interested. So my core values, I would say, are changing almost every year, I suppose. But the basic ones stay, the human being, what is a human being, how we relate to that human being, how we grow together in relationships. I tell to my wife, if I'm not learning from you and not learning from me every day, what's the point? What's the point having an arrangement, you know? So we seek that value that we have, that we can then grow together, because as a therapist, I know that I have things that can offer the other, and they have things can offer me. So we both, even therapy and relationship, we are growing. When you stop growing, that's it. I remember Fritz Perls would say to a client who would not change much, and he would get bored with him. It was a guy. He would say, "Get away from me. You bother me. I'm falling asleep." That was I was horrified because the core values were against what I believed in. But that I realized that was his strategy to make people connect with their own awareness. So he would get he would get a call a week later and said, "Dr. Perls, I was so angry at you. I was so pissed off that I changed. I changed what I had to do. I did it without you." So Fritz said, "Well, then pay me back the money I gave back to you." So I did that once to one client, particularly when I work with men. It's a tougher situation because they need answers right away. They pay you $100 and they want an answer. I said, "No, I'm not working that way. I'm sorry."
More on the
No,
product than on a process.
I'm not even sorry. Yeah, that's right. I don't work that way. That's it.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's a strategy, you know. And I believe that one of the core values is the truth. If you stay with your own truth and communicate that truth clearly to the other, then there is change and growth. If not, it's bullshit. That's all it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you've touched on this a little bit, but I'm wondering if a particular event or a piece of those circumstances of your life you would say have really shaped or defined you somehow.
Well, yes, of course. The biggest event, of course, is World War II, and I was a baby. And we grew up in 4 years in refugee camps in the United States, part of Europe, Germany, Munich. And I later, very much later, when I was working on my own stuff in the Gestalt training, I questioned myself, what am I doing working with people? I'm not particularly, now I know. But before I said, what am I doing so committed to people, saving lives, helping? My first job in Canada, after I finished my master's, was a mental hospital. And I said, what am I doing in the mental hospital? I'm 24-year-old. I don't know anything. And I'm alone with a supervisor. We just talk to each other and support each other. We don't know anything. There were no drugs at that time. There were patients living for 10, 20 years in the hospital, looked after, with doctors and stuff. And then I had a big painting. I used to do painting like abstract. I was very, curious about my artistic side because my father was a photographer and artist. And George Rosner, who was learned with Fritz Perls, he was graduated from Fritz Perls there in Esselen. He said, you spend the 3 years in a hospital, mental hospital. This is your art therapy. I said, what? And then it hit me. There were black, red, and ugly colors, and like rays of striking. And I just got this realization. I am helping people because I wanted, as a growing up person, save the world, no matter what. And started in the fortune I started with a government job in the mental hospital for 3 years. And then, of course, and I said, well, what am I doing? I'm not saving anybody here. So my trick is, and my strategy is, when I don't know what to do, I go further learning. So I went from Vancouver to Toronto for my PhD. And that didn't work much. So I went, and suddenly Toronto had an institute in 71 or so, and I jumped in there. And George Rosner was a shaman man and theater man, and worked with Fritz for 5 years, good friend of Fritz. And he began to start the 3-year program. And the moment I finished the 3-year, he said, join me as a staff member. So I was 4 years a staff member there. But still I was there teaching, helping, enabling. It was fun. It was great. And I said, that is not something that could get, I go nowhere with that personally. So I found a newspaper, a place, University of Queensland is looking for a job. I said, I can do that job, no problem. So I said, send them a telegram. There were no internet then. Probably there are plenty of applicants. Don't forget it. I'm gonna. Well, in 2 weeks, I get a telegram. You're starting July 78. You're starting the job, University of Queensland, Australia. I said, I don't even know where Australia is. So fortunately, my psychiatrist friend who studied with me in Toronto moved to Melbourne. So I rang him and said, what, I mean, I'm supposed to be in Brisbane in July. What am I supposed to do? He said, don't bring any electrical items because electricity is different here, 240 versus 110. But you can bring whatever you want to. Brisbane is a wonderful place. Send me a map. It's a good place. It's a bit of a village, you know, in that time. And university is very well known. It's a good one. So, okay, I left. And I wanted to get out of Canada for the cold.
I understand you on that one.
And this is why I said to you, I went to Mexico every December for holidays to, that's the famous, what was the famous place, La Quebrada, where they jump from, the kids jump from
in Acapulco.
High. Acapulco, famous Acapulco was very famous. So we went there almost every year to warm up. And I realized I really prefer, because of being in Venezuela for 8 or 9 years, I prefer the heat. I love it. We are here in a semi-tropical environment, 32 degrees today. And I love it. People complain. I say, I love it. I love it here.
Wonderful. So you
but my son from another, my son from another marriage is in Canada, in Montreal. He born here, raised here, studied here at university, mine university. He said, Dad, it's too hot for me. I'm moving. So he went to Montreal. So here we are. Here's the mixture, the exchange. Yeah.
So I am also curious. Sometimes, I mean, people have different parts of themselves that they prefer to identify with or not. So I'm wondering how you experience and understand yourself in gender terms, or as a man, or in your masculinity.
Oh, that's a good one, because you know what? Frankly, being raised with a mother, single boy, with a mother in Canada, she had my aunt, she was a twin. So my aunt was a twin and my mother we were together in Canada pretty well. She never remarried, my mother. And so when I came to Australia, I was looking for an identity. Who am I? I have 40, 50 students, they're all female, but 1 or 2 guys, you know, and psychology, social work, social science. I said, I can get along well with women. I had groups, women groups in Gestalt. I felt very comfortable being with women. I said, who am I as a man? So a friend of mine from Sydney said, you want to do a workshop? You work with groups? Yeah, sure. Let's get a man group together. I said, sure. Okay. How many? I said, 10 or 12 would be ideal. Okay. He rang me in Brisbane and said, look, I have a place in the mountains and I have about 20 men. What do you think? I said, that's fine. 20 is good. Next day he rings, how about 50? I said, bring them all in, bring them all in. So we have 55 men sitting in a big circle on the rock. Each one had a rock. And I said, what am I supposed to do now? I know groups, but I work with mostly with women. These are all these guys looking at me, young, old. Fortunately, before I left for that event, this is my kind of, I don't know, spiritual luck. A book came to in my hands. It's called the Archetypes of Male Initiation. I go, ooh, that sounds interesting. So I read the book immediately. What can I do? Ideas from, and I learned about male archetypes, the warrior, the lover, the trickster, all kinds. So I had these 4 or 5 archetypes. And when I went there, I said, okay, guys, we sit around on a big stone. Everybody had a stone, 50 stones. And now I'll give you the 4 archetypes. The lovers are younger. They have issues with women. They have not married, probably. They're really in love or out of love. They have issues. The warriors are the ones who love army, like to explore things, explore. The tricksters are usually older men who know life and can really trick you into stuff. And let's see, 4. The 4th one was, anyway, escaped me.
Sometimes a wizard or a...
No, that's the trickster. The wizard is trickster. Lover, warrior, trickster, and something else. Anyway, it'll come to me. Anyway, 4 archetypes. There are many archetypes, but there's 4 archetypes. And so I said, okay, lovers on this side, trickster on that side, warriors on that side, and the
other guys.
the other guys this side. They'll come. And they went. And I said, okay, fine. Next step done. What's the next step? So I went around to these little subgroups. And I went to the warriors. They got undressed, start jumping and got a stick, and they were all who, and the doing the tribal stuff. I went to the lovers. Oh, the guys are crying, tell their stories, how bad these things are. They were divorced, marriage, lovers gone, all kind of feelings came up, and the tricksters, the shamans, tricksters would stand up, and one guy would stand at a big rock and say, boys, I lived 50 years. I know what life is all about. I'll tell you what to do. One is the jokers. The jokers, I think, is doing an archetype of funny. Everything is fun and positive. And there's no trouble. Everything is fine. So we had these four groups. And I said, what? Okay, I've done the first step, but we have 2 days of this work. So then I got into the idea of drama therapy, where each group had to design a scene in their life. And those guys who were part of that group would identify themselves. For example, I have a problem with my parents, 2 or 3 sisters. And okay, there would be 2 guys be a parents, and then another one a sister, and et cetera, et cetera. And they would enact a scene that they would give them about the issue or problem they had with their family or their relationship or at work, anywhere at all. And they would enact those scenes. And of course, the observers would comment on those scenes. And I was just fascinated how, by not being therapizing, not being the therapist helper, and the other one tells stories. So I said, tell the story of you. And when men start telling stories, particularly when you're surrounded by men who, the rule was no criticism, no judging, just listen. So a man would stand up in the middle of the group and would tell his story, his life story, and man, just broke up. People crying, people sharing, people, hugging each other. So we had 2 days of marvelous time together. And here I am observing and say, whoa, okay, no, that's what a man is all about. Not just no, the ego macho style that we are, the society is projecting on many men, the drunk idiot. But there are a lot of human sensitivities in a man. But sensitive old young man was considered negative. You know, you're just a swag, sensitive young man.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that this is a great thing for me. So I spent 10 years with my friend Rain, 10 years organizing men's groups. And sometime we had a men's festival where we had 150 men gathering. We got them into drumming. We had a 50-man drumming together and 100-man dancing. So, I mean, it was like a incredible experience for me, because I really grew into the idea of being a man and what it means to be a man. Fortunately, I have two boys. One is 40 and the other one's 12. So we have real chats together.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my 12-year-old sits to me on the couch and says, "Okay, Dad, now we talk man to man." I say, "Sure, of course, let's do it." So he asked me a question. Now, the recent one is, "You were in the Second World War." "Well, yeah, I was very young." "Well, do you know anything about communists?" "Yeah, they killed my father. I'm very angry." "Oh, I'm very interested in communism."
Not that kind of communism, okay?
No,
So,
not that kind.
yeah.
He's the military, the KGB. Who are they? The history. He loves history about this stuff. You know. Now he's researching Albania. I said, "I don't know where the hell Albania is. I don't even know." So he's telling me where Albania is, what kind of military they have, you know, that sort of thing.
Nice.
So
So that's also part of the being a man, being a father.
Absolutely relating.
Interesting. And that's actually another one of my questions. Getting into the age issue. How are you experiencing age, or how do you understand it, or how are you at this time in your life?
Well, one of the things I find that as I was growing and still growing, age is only an opinion. Now, the beautiful thing about scientific discovery I made, and you can go online and go on biological age versus chronological age. The chronological age is the time where you were born. Now, the issue is for me that I don't know when I was born. As a matter of fact, I was in Ukraine before COVID. My son has business in Ukraine. He's a kind of an entrepreneur. And I went to the Office of Statistics and said, "I need a copy of my birth certificate." Well, they couldn't find it. The war, you see, they burned a lot of things. The communists came in, took over. So I don't have. So my mother, I have a birth certificate that my mother went in Canada when I needed a Canadian passport. She went to the local priest and said, "Give us a certificate that this boy was born in 1939. Now, I could have born 1940, 1942, 1930, 1938. I don't know. I could have born any time." So I said, "Oh, okay." I clarified that. I don't care what age I was born. It's not, I'm not documented, okay? I went to the biological age, and you have a questionnaire about your health, your not drinking, your lifestyle, your food, all that stuff, weight. And I come up with 69. So I'm sticking to that. I'm stuck with that. I'm saying, "Well, how old are you?" "I'm 69. "Oh, really? You look much younger than that."
So that's your story now.
Thank you.
Okay. And how are you experiencing it, though?
So the experience is very positive because it gives me, versus many men, we have a meetings of men. We go to the movies, we go to the markets, having coffee together, 5 or 6 guys about my age. And many have trouble with depression, relationship issues, children grown up issues, all kind of these things. And we talked about these things. We kind of have a coffee and chat about that. And I find that there's very little positive connection that people with themselves. So when you get yourself at the time when you begin to feel, "Oh my God, And people tell you, family, man, and doctors tell me, at your age, take it easy, sit, watch TV, not just relax, that you're retired, you don't have to. Well, I'm fortunate. I have a wife that is younger. She keeps me busy. She got me to interview with you. She gets me to go out and do things. Now I'm translating her whole course in art therapy, Gestalt art therapy course that she was running all over South America and Spain. I'm translating that into English. So that keeps me very busy to translate and read it and put together a course which will go online, I hope, end of this year, in English. She's got everything prepared, everything done. Of course, I'm also her assistant in English, because she will write an email and say, Yaro, take a look if it's written all right. And I tell you, from 10 years ago that she came in here without a word in English, only Spanish, because she didn't care about English. In Spain, nobody cares much about English. And now, 10 years later, she is producing things in English. Now, less and less I have to correct. I said, well, your email is perfect. No, I don't have to correct it. Look at it. But maybe there's a comma. Okay, I'll read it again, see? So I'm in constant occupied place where I don't have time to think, oh my God, this age, this is terrible. I don't feel good. Life is bad. I also read books on health and healing. Now, I'm reading a book now by a doctor, I think it's Gupta, who was actually a medical surgeon of Obama in the White House. And he wrote a book about a clear thinking and clear brain. And he's a brain surgeon. So he opens the brain, he looks at it. He wrote a book, and he has this 12 directives how to stay healthy and how to maintain your brain, your body, and brain particularly, to prevent Alzheimer's, because his family had Alzheimer's. And he says, one of the things you prevent Alzheimer's, he says, don't think that Alzheimer's starts with age. It starts by 40, by 50 already, the symptom. But I have evidence, researching evidence that the brain and the cells regenerate with activity, with excitement. The cells don't die. They say, oh, well, brain cells die every day. No, they don't.
Just get bored.
They just get bloody bored, go to sleep. That's how you feel depressed, because the brain goes to sleep. So as long as he's got 12 different food, one thing that listeners may be interested, simple thing, walk half an hour every day to the park. That's why I have a park here. Every day for 5 days, walk, 2 days, rest. It's only half an hour. And he gives you statistics up to 40% of reduction of cancer, Alzheimer's, all kind of stuff. This is only that. Of course, alcohol and all that, but that is in itself an example that if you stay alert with yourself and you use your body, the mind will work. Use your mind, the body will work. That's the way it is. It kind of feels obvious, but a lot of people don't do it.
And it's very different to see it in a book than have this conversation with you and see how active and how much it's working.
Yeah. It's incredible. The other thing is I'm also a mystic. I'm trying to call myself the mystic. And my mentor in mysticism and storytelling is Michael Mead, who lives in Seattle area. And he has these podcasts. He's got now about 250 podcasts, and he sends them to me, and I listen to them. And the current one that I'm writing, he helps me to write a blog called Reflections Yaro. In that blog, I have every month reflection of my life, of my style. And right now I'm writing, because of the COVID and all the issues in politics and all that crap going on, about fear, the fear of fear. And it's his statement of what happens when people are truly, like now with COVID, enter this fear and they don't know what to do. So what they do, they project their stuff onto others. So look at what happened in the States. They attacked the center, what do you call it? The center of the capital, the center of government of the United States. They attacked it because they were afraid, and they were dressed in guns and stuff. It said that's fear, and the fear creates change, turns into anger. And anger can create a lot of destruction because, you know, somebody can stop them, then there's a war. And so I'm writing about the idea of fear and how we deal with that, and how can we deal with our inner fear more, how we project our inner fear onto the world. And what happens if you collect that fear into more and more people, you know, and all these theories that this is bad, that's bad, they just, you know, explode. So the world now is exploding in all kind of fear. And on the other hand, they say that out of 100 countries, quite a few, about 50% now are led by radical autocrats and psychopaths. I call them psychopaths. They don't give a shit. Look, Trump is a classic psychopath. I mean, his relative, woman, a PhD psychology, wrote a book I just read about Trump as a danger to humanity. And thank God he left, but he's not left yet, I tell you.
Not gone yet, but yeah.
So there's a huge impact about that. So having that information, but I don't keep that information. Oh, I read a book and saw a movie. No, I put it out. I make a project out of it. If somebody can write against it, that's fine. But I'm stimulating myself and the community that read. I have 250 readers that stimulate their thinking. Okay, I'm happy to do that. You see, and I'm from my home. I don't have to do anything, just write.
And that actually kind of fits in with my next question, which is how you understand and experience privilege and power in your life.
Privilege and power. Well, for me, money is power and privilege. You look at the billionaires. You know what? I don't know whether you know this, but Facebook just canceled Australia. Defriended Australia, because Australia is passing laws that will require Facebook to pay for authors. So they defriended Australia. So we had a huge attack on Facebook, and the government said, okay, we're going to other platforms. We don't need you. So Facebook started to negotiate, and now, as of today, this is 2 or 3 days ago. Today, Facebook have made an agreement with the Australian government to continue the Facebook, because they'll start paying some authors, which makes sense. You know, makes a lot of sense. And they're billionaires, and you know, some are good people, like maybe Bill Gates. They criticize him, but the man is putting billions in health. You know, I don't know what he's doing with that. Tesla guy, who's electric cars. He's developing electric cars where in the future will save the atmosphere, the whole thing, and make the economy better. So, I mean, you have two kinds of psychopaths. The rich psychopath with money who want to dominate, and there are a few of them. And the other group of saying, look, I have all these billions. What am I going to do? Let's help the world somehow. And to me, if I were a billion, that's what I would do. You see, I wouldn't help the world as a therapist because it doesn't go anywhere.
Very limited impact.
But I would make a huge impact. My dream is, if I'm playing lottery, if I had that $1 million, my dream is establish art therapy for children near homes of the aged. So the homes for the aged, the people in the homes for the aged who sit there, many are capable, go to across the street or next door to the children's place, you know, kindergarten, and to look after the kids and be busy with the kids, and kids are with grandparents, you know. We're wonderful. And that's the idea. And I think in Canada, they're beginning to do some of that, where they're inviting grandparents to volunteer to work in kindergarten, but it's not enough. I would actually establish.
It's also set back with COVID, you know.
Exactly. Well, that's the problem now, but they're getting vaccinated. So my aunt in Toronto, in Toronto is 97, so, and she's just been vaccinated. She's very happy.
Nice. Yeah.
She's an artist too.
Oh.
And she says, I like to go out. I like to go to the park. I like to meet
Mhm.
friends. I can't do that. I have to stuck in here. They lock the door on me. But that's okay. She says, I'm working. I'm painting. I'm making a lot of artwork. Good, good.
Mm. Yeah, it's that
So yeah,
connection, that loss of connection.
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So that is what you would do with your power if you had the privilege of money.
That's exactly. And money is power. That's my sense. You know, we all have a little bit of power. We can go out and shop. If we don't have money, we can't get the basic food. So to me, that's somehow the central thing is money in our society. I don't know about India and other places, but I find that, and the privileged people are the ones who, I guess, accumulate that money for the sake of whatever, I don't know what, but very few really are interested in distributing that money, you know. There are a lot of them I know, very rich people in Australia who are not interested in helping anybody. Yeah.
So another aspect of privilege is I wonder how you understand yourself, and having been in different cultures and different contexts,
Mm.
how do you understand yourself? Do you consider yourself a white man? Do you not? How do you understand
Never
that
even thought
aspect?
of that. Now, this
Okay.
craziness about American color and
Mhm.
color stuff. I mean, my son comes home and says, Dad, we're not allowed to use the N word. I said, what do you mean? What N word? Negro. It's forbidden. It's canceled. That word is, but that's a word, I said. It has nothing to do with race and stuff. There are 4 or 5 races: black, white, yellow, and red. At least 4 races, okay? Basic. These are races. And being a racist is nothing to do with being against some color of skin or some culture. Now, for me, I'm lucky because my education from grade 6, maybe, to grade 10 or grade 8, grade 9 in Venezuela. It was all dark kids. We even had songs about the wonderful morenas. Morena, mi niña morena. You know, it's a privilege to have that kind of relationship, you know, and beauty in Venezuela. I mean, there are beautiful women in Venezuela. Some of them earn a Miss Universe, whatever, you know.
Several.
So, and there's no question in Colombia, my God, the same thing. It's just, and to me, it's a no issue at all. No issue at all.
Okay.
I can explain it to my son and etc. and, you know, teach him that you have to be very respectful. And the other thing is that I'm now engaged in the Aborigine culture. I realize here I am living 30 years and I don't know anything about Aboriginality. So we have now 2 movies. I got my boys come in, 2 movies about Aborigine in the 1930s and 40s, how they were killed like animals. And I investigated Aboriginal haven't had the right to vote till 1968. And only in 1990, one of our prime minister made a sorry time for being so cruel to Aborigines, stealing children. You know, the religious communities had a permission to go to the Aborigine settlements and take the kids away and put them in orphanages, away from the families. And now that group of people, particularly mothers, are really high on the volume. The volume is very high on saying, what the hell did you do to us? How you eliminate? That's genocide. You
It's a
know,
cultural
psychological
genocide. It's the same
genocide.
thing in Canada with the residential
Totally,
schools.
totally. But here is like a history of domination and killing, because they were animals. They were the same as kangaroos, you know. And having seen a few of these movies, I great respect for them. They have 60,000 years of civilization. I say not living. They have laws that you wouldn't believe the laws they have. Correct. The tribe, they have 100 languages. You know, they exchanged. There were 3 million Australians when the English came in. There were not many. So the English declared Australia terra nullius. There's nobody here. We take over because nobody's here. Wait a minute. How about the 60,000 years of Aboriginal life here? Nobody consider that, just business. That's all. The English, I must say, the English empire, like many empires, but particularly long and very good at collecting and ripping off people from other places, Australia, Canada, wherever you go. They were for years and years ripping off all these countries.
That was colonialism.
Yeah, that's right. And fortunately now they are losing it all. That's event. I call it the natural justice. No matter what you do and how you do, natural justice will get you sooner or later. It'll get you. And I've had many examples of people very evil, very, very bad people that thought got to get away from things. Got it. Yeah. Maybe I'll tell you that quickly. There's an article I just read. There's a head, a cranium of a bone of a young Aborigine, and the historian was researching that. Eventually found that that bone was in a museum, and his name was scratched on the bone, like a museum piece. And he researched that boy was killed in a cave in Uluru, which is the most sacred stone of Australia, belonging now, thank God, to Aboriginal tribes. And he was killed by a sheriff who was pursuing him for some crime, 1934. Now, this historian found this sheriff's family here in Brisbane, and daughter, 80 years old, still living. And she opened a diary of this guy, her grandfather, I guess. Yeah, father, grandfather. Anyway, where he claimed that he shot that Aborigine point blank. In the documents, official documents in government of Australia, it said that he shot into the cave because there was a stone thrown at him when he was looking for this boy. So she shot into the cave. No, he took the boy out and shot him outside the cave and put him in the cave to die. So here is an example. And the beautiful reconciliation of that the family agreed now to go to Uluru with the families of the Aborigines and bury that skull back into the cave. And how beautiful that is. So to me, that's a great value.
Yeah, there's closure. May not be justice, but there's closure.
Absolutely. That's the, and it's natural justice. Yeah. Yeah.
So all of this is actually very interesting, just in the sense of getting to know you and spend some time with you and see how you think. And I'm also wondering, you've told me a bit about how you came into Gestalt, but I'm wondering if we can go a little bit more into that direction. And I'd like to know what you found in Gestalt that was interesting to you.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Ooh, I can go on and on and on. As I said before already, my strategy of knowledge development is academia. So when I got stuck in the hospital work, I went to university for more studies. And I got stuck with the PhD program, which I didn't finish. I could have finished, but I didn't. Because the Gestalt training started and I would jump in. Oh yeah, I was doing research on group work because I'm a kind of special in group work. And I went to the university library. There were 5 or 6, the 18-inch films, these little films.
Yeah, the 8 millimeter, right? Or no?
Millimeters film. And they were from Esalen, California. These in Fritz Perls Gestalt therapy. I go, oh, this is interesting. Okay. So I look at those films and I go, wow. I go just like, when you get someone who said, this is it. This is the answer of my whatever. And I watched those films several times. And I see this man with a beard, smoking like mad, with 5 or 6 people around him doing miracles. He's got an empty chair in front of him. He called it the hot seat. At that time, we called it the hot seat, where a person would volunteer to sit and do the a dialogue with themselves and parts of themselves, and stuff happened, not only with the person, but with the group, crying and this and that, and growth, instant growth. For me, that was a magic work. I said, I want to see this guy. I'm in Toronto, 1971, I'm going. He just died that year. But at the same year, George Rosner, who was working with Fritz Perls, came to Toronto from Chicago. He lived in Chicago. And with a psychiatrist, Harvey Friedman, opened the Institute. And I was in without asking. There were 60 of us. We had a weekend of selection of 21 or 25, I think 25 people out of 60. So I go, oh my God. But later I found out that they were more interested in kind of academic type people, teachers, PhD professionals. So I was one of them, and we were 25 people who we had one evening a night, 3 hours, one weekend a month, with different leaders. Like we had people coming from New York Gestalt Institute. I worked with Laura Perls, I'm very happy to say. Beautiful work she did with me about growing up. With Laura Perls, with Zinker and people like that. They all came in because George knew everybody in America. And he was also a drama therapist. He ran theaters in Chicago. So we had a lot of dramatic experience, a lot of checks. We one checking our awareness. One exercise was to go to the Toronto subway. When the subway stops, two of us walk in and start singing happy birthday, just like happy birthday to you. And everybody, read books, looked at us, and they start singing with us. And subway would stop and we would go out. The doors would close and I would look people back. So we were exploring contact, relationships. We were scared like hell, but boy, that was quite exciting to see the outcome of our risk. That's my book here. Where's my
Your
book? My book came out, Risk in Being Alive. That's the book, because I didn't understand Pearl's Heffernan Goodman book. It was,
it's a lot of book.
You got the book?
It's a lot of book.
Oh, a lot of book. Well, the advice that George gave all the students is read 1 page a week, meditate, think about it, read again, and then next page if you're clear. I said, no way. The three of us said no. So we got a bunch of students from university, because we were university people, for about 2 or 3 months, every evening for 3 hours. One of us led the group, like using the exercises of Fritz Perls' book. One took notes and another typed the book. So we finally typed out the whole book. And James, who I said, went to Melbourne because we couldn't get together and agree how to publish it. He went to Melbourne and published the first edition of Risk in Being Alive. It's dedicated to George Rosner. This has been redone. I have now permission to redo it and update it and all that stuff. And it's being printed again and again because students love it. Because we said, if we understand what we're writing and the exercise we do are useful, then the book is good. If we don't understand, forget it. It's not going to work. So we contributed a bit to the Gestalt world by clarifying, simplifying, opening up the whole Gestalt world. Yeah. Okay. And of course, being in Australia, I came to Australia, opened 4 institutes. There was Brisbane, we started one with psychiatrists. There was Melbourne, Sydney, Perth. Most of the cities of Australia had a Gestalt training group. We don't have them too many now, about 2 maybe. And I closed mine. But it was huge. I mean, I would put out an announcement, typewritten. I get 30 people to a workshop for a Gestalt workshop. So it was quite popular in particular Australia, and everywhere else was quite popular. And then, of course, Spain. I went to Spain to do a Gestalt in Valencia, the Valencia Institute, where I met Gemma. I did a few work in Denmark. I went there every July because it's warm, to do a 2-week group every July. I was there for 20 years, going to work there. So we kind of spread out and developed Gestalt for all over the place. So in a way, I'm kind of considered the promoter and guru of Gestalt promotions. I'm not a guru in a way of knowing all, but I like to spread the stuff around as much as possible.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. Why?
Why?
I want the next generation to get the point, because now the people are forgetting. They're looking at on the YouTubes, they're looking at things. All it takes is half an hour. They know it all. I can observe my son. He said, "Dad, I know." His cliche is, "Dad, I know already." That's what he says. "How are you doing in school?" "Good." "How much you learn?" "Stuff." This is the end of conversation. So I would like to more and spread out. And also I learned something very important for me. Well, I worked in Hong Kong too, at Hong Kong University, 1 month a year, because we finish the exams here in October, and I had October, November, December, in January, 3 months I had kind of open to do research. So I went to Hong Kong to teach there and do research there. And I see these big buildings in Hong Kong and ask my colleagues, "Why do you have the names of these people on the building? Are they the owners?" "Well, some of them are contributors to the building. And we asked them, "Why are you doing that? Why you give money for these building association, etc." Is to they remember me when I go. It's a kind of it's a monument to your life. Okay, so my monument to my life is spread out the stuff that I enjoy and I love. And I'm also one of my mentor, Michael Mead, talks about mentoring, that older guys over 50, 60, 70 need to learn to be mentors to other young people. And usually it's the young man or woman chooses the mentor. It's someone who's not your family, who is experienced in life, etc., etc. And someone will ask you, can I spend time with you? And sure enough, now you can't. They also, the old man pedophiles, you can't have a young man around because something is wrong going on. So we are slowly closing our relationships, our dialogue with people. Of course, we dialogue right now, you see, but that's not people to people,
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's sort of what you said about, the kindergarteners in the nursing homes. It's the intergenerational connection.
Yes. So one thing is left, I believe, in building my monument or future is, okay, I wrote a book about my life. So far, 500 pages of my journey in life, and dedicate to my 2 sons, because I said, your mother spends most of the time with you, has a view of your father, but your father didn't show or didn't have time to show you his view. So I'm writing a book for you about my life. And it's called Just Passing Through, the title of my book. So my wife said, "Well, you got 500 pages. It's so, I said, "Well, I'm
not in a hurry. I'm
not in a hurry." And she said, "Okay, then write volume 2.
I'm still here.
I'm still here. I mean, Jung wrote 30 volumes, so I'm relaxed about that. Okay. But the principle of that is, it's what can I leave in terms of a monument, a virtual whatever, to the next generation. And I'm sure, like that historian who discovered the history of that killed Aborigine, there will be someone suddenly looking at my stuff somewhere and say, "Hey," or YouTube, "this guy is interesting. Let me research the guy. Let me see what else he's doing." See? So there'll be someone in the next 20, 30, 40 years that that will benefit from that. And I like that. I like that idea.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. So I am wondering, as you've spread these things through Australia, through the world,
Hmm.
what challenges have you run up against? I mean,
Challenges,
yeah.
challenge.
And I mean, that can be on so many different levels. I don't even know how you might answer it. What has been challenging to you in spreading this Gestalt work or doing this kind of work?
Hmm. Well, I can only say one thing, that I don't see challenges as problems. They are actually stimulations to my energy.
I imagined you might
Uh,
enjoy them.
yeah. Um, I don't know why the word challenge now entered the vocabulary as problems, difficulties, hardships. I believe that every challenge, like like my journey, I used to go mountain climbing in Germany. I love that mountain climbing. And there was a place called Dolomites between Germany and Italy, Dolomite, and that was a Gestalt 2-week Gestalt group that I was invited to work with. And in time out and after the group, I went mountain climbing. And as one guy said to me, I said, "What's the point of this mountain climbing? You climb one, there's another one." He said, but you don't know what's on the next mountain. You may discover something. Curiosity. All right. So you get to this point, you've done your climbing, but there's another climb to do, you see, and there's another challenge to do to that. And I like that. I like that. And that's what got me going more and more. And I discovered these mountains in Germany and Italy have little huts where you go for a few kilometers, you get into the hut overnight. They got beer, got food, they got everything you need. And off you go again. And that to me was ideal. In Australia, unfortunately, we don't have that kind of service. New Zealand has a 3-day walk, which I hope to do,
Mhm.
that has these little cottages, where you can rest and stuff. Australia, unfortunately, Australia is too big and too much desert and I mean, we drive 100 kilometers north or west of Brisbane. It's desert. It's nothing, just
Mhm.
kangaroos running around. So really, it's not an appealing thing that you have like in the Great Mountains of Bavaria, for example, where I spent 4 years as a young man,
Mhm.
well, a kid. So that's what. So challenges for me are really not obstacles,
Mhm.
but ways of being more creative in problem solving or in
Mhm.
solution finding, maybe sharing and discussing this with others who may have these solutions, like my great walk across Spain to Compostela from France, 900 kilometers in 2006 with only one friend of mine, Australian. We had no choice. We had to walk all the way because we are from Australia, and I'm not going to go there again and pay all this money.
Yeah. Once you
So
start.
we walk, and there isn't. I think it's a good example, as you mentioned, that challenge. This is a challenge which has a spiritual, physical,
Mhm.
mental uh, requirement.
Mhm.
Now, and if you don't do it, like a guy in a church, a wonderful priest, we stayed there overnight, and he said, whatever you do, it's a long camino. Whatever you do, finish it. You can finish this year, next year. The Spanish take it 1 week at a time. But please finish it for your own soul. Your soul requires this finishing. And Gestalt completing the unfinished business. It makes a lot of sense to me. So we did finish it. It was wonderful. It was the best thing I ever did in my life.
Mhm.
And that was a huge challenge, huge challenge.
Mhm. It's actually, I mean, I always come to the other side of the challenges,
Mm.
or what are some of the satisfactions, but I think you got there ahead of me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Exactly, exactly. And it happens only after the end of that challenge.
Mhm.
Now, you may come to the challenge and give up. You may take time and procrastinate. Or you may say, hey, I'm going to get an answer by taking that challenge and move on with the challenge and see what happens at the end. And at the end, you'll find out. There's even a song that you walk and walk, and at the end, you find out that you were always at home anyway.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
I was just thinking there's
so
also that natural justice thing you were talking
yeah,
about is
yes,
it'll be there
yeah,
eventually, you know.
absolutely. Eventually, just don't be so impatient.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds,
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of sort of, you know, pilgrimage and journey
Mm,
feelings
mm,
as you're talking.
yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. Again, it's part of that what programming I got from the baby on.
Hmm.
We were escaping from the communist destruction of Ukraine. Then we were living in a community of many refugees, which
Hmm.
my grandmother, thank God, she was a teacher, and
Mm.
she collected about 50 kids in that refugee camp, mostly Ukrainians, Polacks. And I used to sit with her, and there were all these kids there. I would say, "You see, the teacher, my grandmother." I'm so proud.
Hmm.
And she was my mentor since I was growing up until Venezuela. She came to Venezuela with us and stayed with me and stayed with my cousins who were born there and all that until she went back to Germany. Her son was there, and she died in Germany. And I was in Canada already, about 16-year-old. And that was a big shock to my mentor, my great mentor from childhood,
Mm.
died. But well, there you are.
You seem to have kept up some of her traditions.
And she did stimulate me with all kind of challenges. She said, "What about this? What can you do that? What's the matter with you?
Hmm.
You can. Yeah, you're not sick. You can go. Go on."
Hmm.
Oh, I'm my excuse. I don't go to school because I don't feel too well. My stomach hurts. Your stomach is fine. Go. Come back. We'll talk a look. So that was a beautiful way of having that kind. Mother was. She did the work. She did when we were in Venezuela, there were many immigrants coming from after the war, a lot of men to work in Venezuela. So I remember she had a big desk, big table, where she was a great cook, Ukrainian cooking, European cooking. And there were always 5 or 6 men sitting around eating every day. And she would pay her. And that's how we lived, by her being a chef, a cook in Venezuela until I became 15. And I remember in the high school, there was a kind of revolution. Venezuela always had revolution, it still has, where I remember throwing school furniture over the balcony, you know, and then they called the police, and I noticed the army came in, and it was pretty. My mother said, "No, no, 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 no. We got to get out of here. Not another war, and you're not going to belong. You're not going to get it. You don't want to get into it."
Hmm.
So yeah, and at that time we were ready to go to Canada. Yeah.
Hmm. Wow. So
Yeah.
this may be a small question
Yeah,
compared to
sure.
some of the context of your life.
Mm.
But I'm wondering, you're obviously a very good storyteller. So I'm wondering if you have any particular Gestalt stories that stand out, either as a student or a trainer, or
Mm.
a
Wow.
client or a therapist, or
Mm.
any particular
A
moments
story,
that
a
stayed with
story.
you.
God, that's never thought of it that way. Story, a Gestalt story. Well, I can tell you about my piece of work with Laura Pearls. It's a
Sure.
wonderful story. I was a student, and she came for the weekend. We were 20 of us, and I think grade year 1, I think was year. I was beginning Gestalt. I was scared shitless, really scared of all that stuff. Sitting in front, really revealing yourself in front of 20 of my colleagues. Woo-hoo. So she sat there, beautiful big eyes, I remember. And she said, pointed to someone across the room at me. I said, "Young man, come over, join me, sit beside me." I said, "Me?" And I was behind a, I think it was a couch was there. And my head was like that behind the couch, observing. And I had a notebook. I'm an academic. I write down everything she says. That kept me away from her. She said, "No, no, no, leave your stuff. Come and sit with me." I said, "Okay, okay, okay." And everybody's looking at me, and they all wanted to work with her. I sat beside him. Tell me, where you come from? I told him my story about, my growing up in the wartime and all this stuff. And she, of course, come from Berlin, where the Nazis came. I mean, she knows the whole story. She said, tell me, how did you grow up? I said, what do you mean? Well, go and make yourself as a baby in a fetal position. So I went on the floor and went in the fetal position. I said, okay, now grow. I just stood up and started walking. He said, young man, you missed a stage in your life. You were in a great hurry, aren't you? Yes. Which stage? I said, the crawling stage. You missed the crawling stage. And that was, wow, yes, of course. I'm always in a hurry, go. Yeah, I missed the crawling. That was a powerful impact. And when she died, I wrote an article about my story with her. So it's published somewhere. I don't know, maybe it's the English, British Journal of Gestalt, the British Gestalt Journal, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah. So that's a wonderful story, very strong. Still strong for me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of my last questions is, do you feel like you're part of a Gestalt community? Does that mean anything to you? Or what does
I'm
it
sorry,
mean?
repeat that
A
again.
Gestalt community.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're part of a Gestalt community?
No, not anymore. I have a sense of being there, but not there. I think we had some very important issues in Australia where several institutes closed down because of all kind of critics, and also because of unprofessional registration. We were not registered with anybody. Now the current Gestalt Institute, which many of them are my ex-students, run as a university. They're accredited by University of Queensland, and they run master courses, and they have quite a few people doing master courses. My criticism of that, even though I supported that, is that once you enter university, and I know because I was there for 20 years, you get into the curriculum requirement, you get into judgments by other people about Gestalt, you get about paperwork, and $5,000–6,000 a year to belong, fee. And I said, for me, I'm a free soul. Even though I went through all those things, the university, academia, and all that. But I'm in private practice. We have a Gestalt Art Therapy Center where we do Gestalt art therapy, and it's wonderful, combining the two together, the only one in Australia. And we have people, we have residentials, and I include Gestalt practice ideas, and I practice and show them my practice to the people who want to learn about both art therapy and Gestalt therapy. And now I started or co-edited, not co-edited, co-formed the GANS, the Gestalt Australia New Zealand Association, where I produced quite a bit of material and helped to promote it, both New Zealand and in Australia. And then GANS went in their wisdom, bad wisdom, joining PACFA. PACFA, and I also belong there. I know that story. PACFA is an association of associations. Sounds very good, but they begin to control what you do, where you do it, worse than university, because they are an association who have mandates and rules. So I said, I'm not joining, I'm getting out. I got out of GANS, I closed my institute. That's not for me. Guess what? A few years later, now, the Gestalt community in Brisbane moved out of PACFA. They're out because they were suppressed. So they're free now. They're free now. And they're continuing. And I went a year before COVID, I went to one of their seminars outside Brisbane, where they about 50 people together. They asked me to tell about the story of Gestalt in Australia, my contributions, etc. So I did communicate a lot of stuff, my stories, to them. And I'm open to whatever I'm open to supervision. I can supervise people if they wish, whatever, the therapy. But no, I think my theory, and I don't know if it's true, I would like to have some feedback from them, that they were kind of annoyed at me that I quit and I didn't pursue and I continue. So my time, my effort, my stopped. So how dare he? And of course, if people who run the institute now are my ex-students, well, they become aggro at me. Hey, you're a bad teacher. You deserted us. And maybe that's true. Maybe I deserted them, but also I freed them in a sense, and I am freeing them to do their thing, their growth and their teachings, whatever they want. The other thing I'm a little bit, the final part, I'm a little bit uh, concerned also that the Gestalt community, as I'm reading it in the world, they're back to the idea of dialogical communication, dialogical whatever, which is fine. Dialogue in Greek is dialogos, two people talking. I mean, that's fine. But they considered Fritz Perls a little bit aggressive, and they eliminated the empty chair approach. There's only one guy in New York who's actually teaching the empty chair approach as a skill. And it's not a trick, no whatever. It's a skill that we need to develop as therapists, because when I talk to you, you talk to me as a therapist client, you are projecting stuff on me and I project stuff on you. And it's called transfer counting transference in psychoanalysis. So we're constantly projecting stuff and trying to resolve that projection to get in some dialogue, clear dialogue, contact, I call it. Well, if you put the person, and I do it all the time, sooner or later, there's an issue with my mother. I hate her, blah, blah, blah. Put your mother right there and talk to her. And then, wow, things start happening. Now switch and be your mother and talk to your daughter, and wow, all this stuff come out and clearing out. The other thing I'm very successful, I must boast, inner child work. There's no question that you can resolve and finish a lot of inner businesses that you're carrying from inner child. And I can even tell at what age you're having it, 8 or 9 for boys and 9 or 10 girls, that they have a lot of imploded stuff that they carry for love, whatever, from parents, issues. But I put that inner child on the empty chair, and I make a drawing. I make a client draw, because we do that in art therapy. Draw the child, and it's always beautiful, little girl or little boy, put it in that chair, and you talk to them, make a dialogue. You make a statement. Every time you make a question, go across, be the child, keep the child painting on you, and respond. And that dialogue opens up a whole can of worms. It's incredible. And then people said to me, I had the inner child, I didn't pay attention to her. And I did now with this work. I made a contract with her that every day we're gonna meet and do things together. And so he called me a week later, so I feel so relieved, so good. You know what? She and I are writing poetry together. Whoa, beautiful. I said, that's it. You're now connected. Before you were disconnected. And also my other theory is, is that the inner child is an energy field in you that if you not pay attention to it, it'll get you into trouble. Accidents, relationship issues, projecting your inner stuff on your partner. So you may go to therapy, couple therapy, okay, fine. But it's not inside you. The inside has to come out and clean up. We know that. And then make a contract with that inner child. I made a contract with my inner child that I found in my work, that hated my father, that was dead. I didn't even know the guy. But I had hate towards him for abandoning me. And I worked it out with my teacher. I discovered that my mother told that my father was a saint. We prayed to him every night before we'll go to bed, that he was a wonderful artist, a painter. I have photographs of him in his studio in Ukraine. We prayed to the guy as God. And the other part of me was unfinished. I had rage towards him for abandoning me as a man in his son, a huge rage. And that helped me to be really, really connected with my sons now. Tremendous, big, new connection, totally. So that was quite helpful.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I see that the Gestalt communities and those teachers I see, either they don't know how to do it, and I can help them, or they feel it's not necessary to do that sort of a tricky stuff. Put someone on an empty chair and it doesn't make sense, to many people because they haven't done it themselves. In my training experience, in my training in our institute, I required every student to have at least 10 sessions a year. We had 3 years, so 30 sessions of private personal therapy to really find out what's going on. Otherwise, you have a master degree, you're trained, go and promise all kind of things.
And then you're that 12-year-old son of yours on the couch saying, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. And that's okay. I don't get mad at him. Say, come on, I'm your dad. You should listen. No, it's fine. You tell me about your stuff you're doing, dressing military things on a roadblock. He loves the roadblock, and it's interactive. You know roadblock? Have you heard of it?
Oh, I have kids.
Well, he can actually. Of course you do. I forgot. Sorry. How old are they?
I have a 4-year-old and an almost 12-year-old.
12. So, well, perfect. Roadblock, there it is. And he can dress the roadblock and little things into military uniforms. And he designed the military uniform. It's a great stuff. He is interacting with the game. It's a marvelous thing. So, I mean, I'm learning too.
Yeah. Digital play therapy. It's a new
absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. Digital play therapy. That's what it is now. Yeah. That's good. That's all right. So it's more challenge for me.
That's true. So one of my last questions is really, what's next for you, and what do you think is next for Gestalt? I mean, you've mentioned right now a couple of things that it would be nice if it picked up again, but do you think there's a new turn, a new direction? What do you see coming up?
Well, being where I am, there's nothing new, ever. It's recycled.
Okay.
If you could look at all these things, if you stay with psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, psychology, eventually given time in a couple of generations, the whole thing recycled again. It may be in a new form, new language, but it's recycled. So as I said, dialogue for me is nothing new. I did dialogue when I was doing social work 20 years ago, teaching dialogue, called interviewing skills. It's called them. It's called interviewing skill. You sit there and you do a Rogerian stuff. We played Rogers. Yes, yeah, tell me more. And that's the dialogue. And now it's a dialogue, a relational dialogue. It's a new word, a new situation. Nothing wrong with it. That has been repeated itself. And my mentor, Michael Mead, said that traditionally, in his view, everything repeats itself every 7 years. My oldest son, just another little story. My oldest son, when he was about 6, my mother used to come from Canada. She was about 80, come to Canada for 6 months. And she stayed around and she didn't speak much English, so we did Ukrainian. And my son said, Dad, what can I say something to grandma in Ukrainian? Teach me. I said, it's a bad word. No, so he said, oh yeah, grandma. He said, what? What? You can't say that. It's terrible. You should be punished. It's just a jokey thing. And you know what? This is my mother died at 103 2 years ago. And this is like 20, 30 years. He still remembers that word exactly. It's the only word. He said, Dad, now that I have business in Ukraine, why did you teach me some Ukrainian? I said, that's okay. You invite me over. I'll be your translator. Pay me, go. I'll go. So we did. Last year before COVID, he took me we were in Spain, took me to Ukraine, Lviv, where my father had his business. We went to where he had his photographic studio. And guess what? On the same corner, same store, had a photographic studio. I said, wow, look at that. So I come in and ask and say, look, my father owned this place. Oh, really? Yeah, he was a photographer. Oh, no, but we don't know. We don't remember the war. destroyed everything. But I said, I'm glad that you still continue the tradition of photography in the same place where he did. It was wonderful. It's really great.
So we rediscover the old things again.
Yes, yes.
In exactly the same place.
Exactly the same place to discover. And my son, who was 40, rediscovered Ukraine. I never asked him to go to Ukraine. He just went there for business. He's doing solar panels in Ukraine. He said, Dad, maybe in 5 years, maybe I'll make 100,000 a year. I go, what?
Sure.
Wonderful. Yeah, my partner, he's got a partner there and they're doing business together. And Ukraine is very open to business because they're now a little easier away from the Russians. So I know here you are, another generation. You're doing new things with something that I thought, well, it's nothing. So I may have been carrying a lot of aggro, toxicity, experiences that were negative throughout life in Ukraine and then in Germany and places. But watching him and those two, how they relate to the same thing is totally, totally different. Same thing, but different. It's incredible. It's incredible. So there you are.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Is there anything that you would like to add to this conversation at this point?
Well, as a person who loves distributing as much as possible the words, and we are now in the world of words, on communication through words, basically. We can't shake hands, we cannot hug that much. I hope that this, what you're doing, and I really congratulate you, to spread us as much as possible. And I'm hoping that Ukrainian will be the next interview in Ukrainian.
Wonderful.
And I'm available. If you find a Ukrainian in Mexico, I'm available.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll leave it here then. Okay.
Well, I hear you're